call the regular meeting of the Helotes Economic Development Council to order. Any citizens to be heard?
No, Mr. President.
Okay. Next item is item 3 and 4, consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting May 17th and approval of the fiscal year ending FYE 2017 revenue and expenditure report dated July 13th. Does anybody have any questions on either one of those? If not, we have a motion to approve.
I move we approve the meeting minutes and the budget.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is discussion and action on the selection of a respondent to the request for sealed bids, City of Helotes, Texas, for a pre-engineered manufactured pedestrian bridge received on July 14, 2017. We'll let staff cover what we've got on that. I think we have some backup material in our folder here under item 5. You want to handle that, Rick or Glenn?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The included on your dais was the agenda item request form for this item. If it is okay with the chair, I would like to address items 5 and 6 collectively because they sort of one rolls into the other.
Okay, we have a motion to discuss item 5 and 6 collectively.
I'll motion that.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll open discussion and turn the floor over to Rick.
So I wanted to go through this background documentation because I know that y'all have not received this yet. It was placed on the dais. Prior to this, we had sent out the request itself for sealed bids and also the background information on each of the top 3 individual companies that bid on the project. But this lays out essentially what staff's recommendation will be to the EDC tonight. We did receive 6 bids from bridge manufacturers on July 14th, 2017, and this specifically is on the bridge manufacture, not the installation of the bridge or the construction of the abutments. Generally speaking, this is a 165-foot bridge. The base bid was a 10-foot clear span width, and the type of bridge is a Pratt truss or H-section floor beam bridge. We did bid it out as self-weathering steel rather than painted or aluminum. And you can see the design loads there. Those are similar to the International Building Code and similar to projects that have been bid out in the city of San Antonio. But essentially, this would allow for a minimum uniform pedestrian live load of 90 pounds per square foot. Which is in compliance with the IBC and a vehicle live load of a 10,000 pound truck. Also within this bid package was additive alternates number 1 through 4. Number 1 being a bridge width of 8 feet rather than 10 feet. Not surprisingly, well, actually surprisingly to us, the bids did not come back. There wasn't a significant cost difference between additive alternate number 1 and the base bid. So there really isn't a significant cost savings from going 10 feet to 8 feet. Additive alternate number 2 was bridge decking of non-serrated galvanized open bar grating. And essentially what additive alternate number 2 would do would be to replace the concrete decking that was spec'd in the base bid with a open bar metal grating to where you could see through to the Helotes Creek below. Additive alternate number 3 would add a pipe handrail to the bridge in an effort to be compliant with the ADA. Additive alternate number 4 would replace the horizontal safety rails with a 9-gauge galvanized chain link fencing. We added that in there in order to see if we could minimize cost, and there again was not a significant cost savings from that. The following page, I believe Director Stacy, sorry, I deal with a lot of different commissions and had asked what the options would look like. Additive alternate number 2 on the second page, you can see it's the open grading. Additive alternate number 3 would look very similar to the handrail that's presented there. And additive alternate number 4, the fencing would look something, certainly not as tall as that, but would look something like that towards within, I think, 54 inches of the decking. The following page lays out the actual bids that were received. Because Big R Bridge Company did not submit additive alternates 1 through 4, but just bid the base bridge, we compared the companies, or ranked the companies by the base bid only. From lowest to highest, it was Wheeler Lumber LLC, Big R Bridge Company, and Excel Bridge Company. Those were the top 3 there. And essentially, Wheeler came in at $136,800. The next one is $148,100, and the next one is $168,900. We did request renderings and references from Wheeler Lumber, Big R Bridge, and Excel Bridge Company. Wheeler Lumber did send a rendering, and that is the rendering on that sheet that you can see. It's very similar to the rendering that Big R submitted as well. Just one is a schematic and one is actual picture. 3 references were contacted on July 18th for Wheeler Lumber. 2 positive responses came back, and 1 did not provide a response. Have we had any updates on response? Okay. Big R Bridge Company, they did not submit any renderings or references. And Excel Bridge Company did send, again, the rendering that's on the sheet, and we were asked, they did provide references, 4 of them. They, again, were contacted on 7/18, but we have not received any responses back from those references. To clarify, there is another bid that's out there. It's a request for sealed bids for bridge site work and the bridge abutment construction, unloading, and bridge concrete decking and expansion joint cover plate installation. That was extended from July 14th. We originally intended to receive both the pedestrian bridge and manufacturing and also the contractor that would do the installation here in the same meeting or on the same date, July 14th. The contractors, several of them contacted us and said that they would prefer and we would receive better bids if we extended it to a week or so after the bridge came in and after the EDC selected the bridge manufacturer so that they could receive specification sheets and some construction documents in order to bid that. So we did move that bid date back to July 26, 2017. That is the following Wednesday, and they're due at 3 o'clock. Financial, in FY17, TxDOT, as you know, reimbursed the EDC for the Helotes Creek Linear Park project, and they reimbursed us $241,183.33 for that project. So we have that to spend in FY17. Both the EDC and council approved the $241,000 for the Old Town Helotes Bridge project. To date, however, $70,267 was expended out of the EDC's capital fund because of the final payment having to be released to Terra Design Group in the amount of $36,000, and 2 final payments to L&V Engineering, one for $19,352 and one for $14,800 and some change for the State Highway 16 water and sewer design projects. That leaves a balance in the capital fund of $170,916.03. The good news, and you can see the actual in-code report on the following page. I had to make it look gray. I apologize, it's a little hard to read, but it was harder to read without graying it out for some reason. And so you can see there the remaining balance for F550-5509 is the $170,916.03. The good news is that there's enough money to cover the bridge manufacturing, but we will need, as a part of the upcoming fiscal year's budget, depending on how the bids come in for the construction, increase or put money into that line item in order to fund the full construction of the project. The recommendation is to go with Wheeler Lumber LLC for the bridge itself in the amount of $141,060. This would be for the base bid and additive alternate number 3, which is the inclusion of the handrails. Additionally, I'm recommending to authorize myself to receive from Wheeler Lumber the construction documents, specs, and other related documents so that I can distribute those to the individuals or the respondents that are bidding the bridge, the second component of this project out. And if the EDC would like, we could schedule a special EDC meeting for the week of July 31st in order to select a winning respondent and have both the bridge manufacturer and the bridge contractor on staff and ready to proceed.
I just have a general comment. I know we didn't meet last month, right, as planned. But I think we're really moving very quickly, and I know you wanted to get the RFQs. But what I've seen on the website, and I'll pass this on, is it's a done deal. But let me read what's on the website. It says, visitors of Old Town Helotes Special District will soon have more options when traveling in the area. This is on your website. It says, a new pedestrian bridge will be built to accommodate walkers west of Elf Hardware and John T. Floor's store, etc. The freestanding pedestrian sidewall will run the parallel. Sounds like a done deal to me. What's going on? I'm confused. Is this just a rubber stamp, EDC?
No, we
We haven't had any
basically,
discussion about this.
about doing the pedestrian bridge?
Not any details. We were gonna go out for the RFQ 2 months ago.
Right, and we did that in the interim.
Yeah,
And that's,
but this says it's a done deal,
Well, it was
the website.
it was my understanding that this project was approved by both the EDC and the city council. So the only thing that was outstanding was to receive bids for the pedestrian bridge, which is why.
That's not my understanding.
And that's a recent addition to the website. It was actually done, I believe, it says July 13th, but I believe it was done a little bit after that.
So I'm confused. Was it approved? I don't remember approving it. I remember talking about it, yes, a couple, 3 months ago.
we all were in agreement that we were gonna do the project.
I think we were in agreement to pursue the RFQ.
Can we put
Am I
in
wrong?
I was under the impression that this was the alternative to doing the entire
linear park?
linear park project. This was our part that we saw value, that the EDC saw value in for the businesses of Old Town and Old Town in general, where we did not see value in the linear park so much for the EDC to fund. That was my,
Yeah, I remember that too, but I don't remember officially approving. Is that in any of the minutes?
No, that, we're officially approving it tonight if we do. Yeah, this should not have been put on the website, I agree, because it hasn't been approved yet.
Because this is the first time we've had an opportunity to hear anything about any of the details, and we're still not talking about the construction cost.
Right.
We have no idea. We don't know if that's gonna be 200,000, 300,000, 80,000. That's the other missing piece of this, right? We gotta look at the package.
We couldn't get that number.
gonna be
until we give
300,000
them-
more.
We can't get that number until we give them a design to work with, for them to give us a number to.
So
build
why
the
would we
study.
approve it tonight with half the information?
We have to approve the bridge we're gonna use so that the plans can be given to the contractors to bid on the footings and the installation.
Why can't they just bid on the design?
Well, we don't have a design.
But we will by the end of the night.
Yes.
At least that's somebody's plan.
Right, that was the point of approving it tonight.
So anyway, I'm just confused.
This is I don't know.
So we haven't approved it, but the website says we have.
Well,
Well,
the city and the EDC have approved the allocation of the $241,000 for the bridge project in Old Town. So that was done through the budget process, where we approved that project.
Approve the funds for it.
Yes.
Okay, but not approving the project.
We haven't approved the project per se yet.
Okay.
And this, basically, the mayor had contacted several bridge companies last year, or early this year, and this prices are actually a little better than what he was told at the time, what the price was gonna be. Once you get down to bids and we're having 6 bids on it's pretty good for a small project like this.
Where's Wheeler out of?
They are out of state.
Minnesota, I think,
Out of where?
Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Yeah, somewhere up in the northeast.
Okay, so I'm still confused as to the alternatives, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think you went over those
Yeah, one was
very
gonna-
quickly.
One was gonna be, for an 8-foot bridge rather than 10-foot wide bridge. See if we could
Okay,
save money. on that.
understand that.
2 was if we wanted to go with a metal grate floor rather than the poured concrete.
Right?
Okay,
And 3 was adding handrail,
Which you
which
need to have.
is shown on this one. And 4 would be, I don't know, we thought maybe, I guess maybe we thought maybe save money to put a chain link fence on the side of it, I guess more for safety than anything else, but
Well, the chain link fence would take the place of the horizontal railing that is proposed to be that would be part of the base bid. It would replace that with fencing on the lower section below the handrail.
just rather than putting all of these rails along here that it's showing below the handrail.
so you do 3 or 4, but not both.
Right.
3 is
I
just,
have reading.
3 is just the handrail itself.
Just adding the handrail to that design,
Okay.
which looks exactly like, this is pretty much what the bridge structure is gonna look like with a close-up detail other than we're showing horizontal rather than vertical, bars on it.
Right.
And the handrail added to that, I guess just so people, if they need to stop and tie their shoes or, I don't know. I don't think San Antonio has handrails on those, I really don't remember. But this looks very much like what
Wouldn't want to touch San
San
Antonio's
Antonio has,
downtown
the city of San
handrails.
Antonio has on all of their walking paths if you've been on one.
Is this going to be handicapped?
Yes, it will, it has to be handicap accessible, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gotta be handicapped accessible.
So we have a price for the bridge itself. And now we have the additional of the construction on the abatements and, on the sides and,
Yes, and that will come in on the 26th.
All of the concrete structure to set it on.
yes.
I have no idea what that price could come in at. You have to.
I'm thinking the same.
Tom, has anybody given
Well,
you
yeah,
any
that's
idea
why
what
it's out
that
for
would
bid.
cost to do the footings?
The abutments,
Abutments, yeah.
not really. Part of the issue that.
I will say that, no, we're live.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm just sending Rick a text about this, so
Okay.
I can answer your question at the podium if you wish.
That'd be fine.
Sure.
He's catching up like for Hawaii, but later.
Tom Schoolcraft, 12127 Tiger Road. Your question was, what now?
Any idea what it's gonna cost to pour the abutments?
No. The process that we've gone through with this is we decided that the city would purchase the bridge to save some money rather than having it a turnkey or design-build project. And the purpose of that was simply to save money. So we put the request for sealed bids out, and we had the 6 respondents, and the price came back well within budget, in fact, quite a bit lower than we were anticipating, which was a good thing. What I might recommend as a thought, and Carl has some very good points. And as far as the website doesn't control what you guys do. The bids are in, so the task that we're faced with now is which bid to accept, if any. You don't have to accept any of them. It is tough to do it this way because the bridge abutment people, the contractors that will actually install the bridge, several of them called us and said that it was very difficult to bid an accurate number or a good number for the actual installation of the bridge without knowing which bridge manufacturer they're going to be working with, because each bridge manufacturer is a little different. The weights are different, the lift points are different, the assembly is different. And so they said that it would be much better if we would select a bridge company, and then that way they would be able to more accurately give us a number. Otherwise, they would probably all be doing a worst-case scenario number, which would cost us more money. So I talked to Rick, and then we went ahead and put out an addenda to the bid saying that, okay, we would extend the bids on the abutments an extra 2 weeks. And that way, we would hopefully select the bridge manufacturer so that these guys would be able to bid more accurately. I don't know that we actually need a bridge design when we get the bids for the abutment. So just a thought, I was texting Rick. You could select Wheeler, since they are the low bid, and they are reputable, and they do this all the time. And I think the reason they came in as competitive as they did, talking to a couple of the other bridge manufacturers, is that they're coming into Texas and trying to be competitive in the Texas market, because there's a lot of pedestrian bridges, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and other cities, so there's a lot of work. But you could just say, okay, we're going to select Wheeler, or whichever one you select, contingent upon the bids coming in on the abutments. That way you can be sure that when the abutment bids come in, that the total package is within a comfort zone that you guys would have, because with 174,000, I think it was, left in the budget for the bridge, it's obvious to me that the abutments and the sidewalks and the associated work is going to come in more than 30,000. And so you're probably looking, our original guess was between $200,000 and $250,000 when we first started talking about, as Joel was saying, doing this in lieu of the total project. I'm thinking that, just as a guess from talking to these guys, it's going to come in somewhere between $200,000 and $225,000 by the time we figure the abutment part of it, the sidewalk part of it, pouring the concrete deck on the bridge, that type of thing. We'll know that in 2 weeks.
The bridge includes the concrete decking on it, doesn't it?
I didn't hear you?
The bridge includes the concrete decking.
No. The bridge includes the pans. The concrete will be poured in place. So the reinforcing steel and the concrete will be placed by the contractor that's doing the installation. They'll do the abutments, they'll assemble the bridge. It'll either be in 2 or 3 parts, we have to wait and see from the manufacturer. They will lift it, probably with 2 cranes, put it on the abutments. Once everything is done, then they will put the rebar in the pans that come with the bridge, place the concrete in there, and then do the associated site work. That will all be in their bid. So you'll take the bridge bid of 136 plus the handrail is what, 141? And whatever the number is for the site work and the concrete work, put those 2 together, you'll have your total bid.
Okay, but now, will Wheeler pour the concrete, or will the
No, the installer of the bridge.
installer will pour the concrete? Okay. That's where the extra expense comes in, I wasn't figuring on.
That shouldn't be that much, because the pans are already there. It's just going to be putting in probably a number 4 rebar and 4 to 5 inches of 3,000-pound concrete. Maybe it's 4,000 pound. I don't remember the specs. And you're talking for that bridge, I think I figured less than 20 yards or around 20 yards. So you're not going to be talking that much for that portion of it.
Yeah. Won't be that expensive. I think concrete for, if you were doing 4,000 pound, it'd probably run you about $85 a yard.
Have no clue. That'll be part of their bid. And I know several of the bridge companies, bridge installers, they're ones out of Bull Verde. They're very good at doing this, and I'm hoping that they'll come in with some good bids. It's a competitive market right now.
So I have a question. We have additive alternative number 2, which is putting the non-serrated galvanized across the bridge to span it as opposed to concrete, but we don't have the price of concrete to compare this bid
It's
that
gonna
we
be a
have.
minimal cost. It's gonna be less than $100 a yard. So the cost of materials is gonna be nominal. The question will be whether they'll have to rent a pump, which I am assuming they will.
Yeah.
Pumps are very common now, but that part of the job will be less than the alternate bid by any of those bidders. The reason we put that in there is we had discussed that during the original Linear Park project, because some people thought it would be nice to look down through that. However, it's to us not worth the expense. It adds a lot of weight for lifting and transporting, and that's part of the cost, not only the materials, but the weight and the freight. So again, tonight, the option that you have is to select the bridge company, but say that that's contingent upon us receiving the bids for the concrete work. That way we can at least let Wheeler know, hey, you have the bid, but it's contingent upon us getting the rest of our bid in so that we can be sure we can handle the total cost of the project. There, I don't see any problem with that at all. They would not go ahead and put the money into designing the specific bridge, but I think they could answer the questions that are being put to them by the installers and the contractors that are doing that work enough to where we'll get more accurate bids. But then that way, when we come back with the abutment or concrete site work bids, you can put the package together and then decide yes or no. Because as Carl said, the project is not finally approved until you guys take a vote and approve it. We're just doing our work to get it to this point to present to you. We certainly didn't mean to imply that the decision had already been made and you had no input. That was never our intent. And if it came out that way, we just, we'll learn by doing.
So what do we know about Wheeler? I know we got the 2 comments back, and they sounded very positive.
Wheeler, they sent a real good packet, and they sent a lot of their engineering stuff. And I think, Rick, didn't you say you put it on the website, or you sent it out to them?
Sent them their websites, yes. I mean, they're an extremely reputable company.
Yeah. I talked to Big R, who was one of the first bridge companies we started talking to back when we were doing the Linear Park stuff, and they were the ones that actually submitted the low bid on the Linear Park project for that. And in talking to their sales manager, I let him know that they came in second on the bid and that Wheeler had come in low. And he had said that they're out of Minnesota, they're very aggressive, but he could not say anything bad about them. They build a good bridge, and they've been building bridges for a long time. So we'll continue to do our due diligence there. But they're being the way they submitted the bid, I have no hesitation saying they can handle the job.
Professionally done. Professionally done.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Big R and Excel are 2 of the major manufacturers in the country. Hopefully you saw the Big R's project list. They've done hundreds of bridges in Texas. I won't say that I was hoping that they would be low because I've been talking to them the longest, but I have no hesitation in saying that Wheeler looks like a company that can certainly handle the job.
Any idea of the time frame that they could deliver? And
They told us that to do the design, and this is, I didn't talk to Wheeler, I talked to Excel and Big R as we were developing the specifications. They were very helpful in helping us put the bid documents together. But they were both typically, as I recall, seemed like they were 4 to 8 weeks to do the design of the bridge and get it to us for us to approve. and then 12 to 15 weeks to manufacture or fabricate the bridge, which would give us plenty of time, even if you wait to make a final decision until both bids are in and you can see what the total project's gonna cost. It's not like we're, hanging on with bated breath to do the job. So if we delay it, we'll just let them know, hey, if this job becomes feasible to us, you will build the bridge. We just need to know some specifics for the people, the installers.
Okay.
So you have a lot of leeway, is the point I'm making, to settle your mind. Just deciding on who you want to be the manufacturer. Rick and I will contact them. We'll work with the installers that are bidding and help them as much as we can to get the best bid we can on the concrete work.
One of the questions I saw just in the spec here was they guaranteed it for 10 years. It sounds like a house. Could we ask them if they could extend it beyond the 10 years?
An extended warranty plan?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I believe somewhere I saw 15 years. I did not see anything longer than 15 years. We can check on what's the industry standard, but sure, it never hurts to ask.
10 years is all the bridge manufacturers I looked at, 10
Pretty
years was
much.
pretty
I
much
forget
the-
who I saw. I think that they said 15 years, but there weren't many.
Is that something we could ask?
Sure,
If we
we can
decided
ask anything,
to go with whomever? Okay.
yeah. I don't know that would be a deal breaker because most of them are that way. And I would point out, I don't know how much detail Rick went over, but we did, and you saw it in the bid documents, hopefully. It is a weathered steel, which is a rusty look, rather than painted or galvanized or aluminum. It just worked out better for economy and maintenance. Maintenance is very easy on the weathered steel. That's why we went with concrete too. Once it's there, it's there. Right. We looked at composite decking, wood decking. It all requires a lot of maintenance, and so that's why we went there.
Okay.
And that weathered steel process, I don't totally understand it, but they're using that on a lot of the big highline poles now. It
Yep.
oxidizes to a certain point,
And then
and
it's-
it doesn't oxidize anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't rust. There is a little bit of maintenance possible on it. You can't use salt solutions if you're up north, that kind of thing. Nothing that should have any bearing on us down here in the way we maintain it.
Yeah, we're living on a coastline.
Any other questions? Other than that, we hope we did a good job for you. We've been working on this pretty steadily, and like I say, never intended for this to be a predetermined deal. It's all up to you guys.
I think the bid specs had a delivery requirement in it too, time frame.
Yeah, but those are all flexible. We put that in there just to try and tie things down and give them an opportunity to know what our time frame, our desired time frame is, and all of them fell well within that. So what's going to happen, the way I picture it, if we proceed with this project, is that once the concrete contractor starts, the abutment work and everything, we'll get the time frame from him and not order this bridge too far ahead of time, because we don't want it to hit Helotes until it's ready to go on to the abutments. And so those have to be ready. And I would imagine that we would want to have at least a 28-day cure on those abutments before we put that heavy of a load on them.
This isn't a cheap project, clearly.
No.
Is there any way we're going to be able to market the bridge
Market the bridge in what way?
for Helotes in general?
Well, to me, Old Town, this has always been a critical element in the Old Town district, just to make pedestrian traffic or pedestrian travel much safer. Because I know when I step on that vehicular bridge going from one end to the other, I'm looking both ways, and I'm still nervous because somebody's going to sneak up on me, and I don't like hopping up and walking on that little curb. So this has been something in my mind for quite some time, and I always pictured just paying out of our own funds, EDC or city or whatever, and this is the remnants of our linear park project, and so to me, the real viable part of that project was this pedestrian bridge. But to answer your question, it's just gonna make it much safer and easier for people to go from one end of Old Town to the other, because our objective, I would think, as an economic development corporation, as a city, is to encourage more people to go down there. And this is just gonna make it a little more homey, a little more small townish looking, and ease that pedestrian travel from one end to the other.
Right.
Try walking across that bridge in heels.
Do what?
Walking across that bridge in heels. It doesn't happen.
The one that's there now?
One that's there now. It's not safe.
Well, and that gives us a continuity to Old Town. Right now, we have market days all on the upper end, and nobody goes down to that end unless they park down there and ride the shuttle down. If we get that in, we can actually, if we wanted to, have market days spread over all of Old Town, and the Jazz Fest.
Well, we're
and all
not
the
sure
other-
we want to do that for various reasons. We won't get into that now, but
Well, it's
that,
there's other, it'll give you the ability to tie the whole town together.
or multiple things going on at one time.
I just think there's got to be a way, Tom, that we can market what we're doing here for Old Town Helotes.
Sure.
I mean, it's going to be beautiful, clearly. It's going to be expensive. I still think it may be the right thing to do. But how do we leverage it for Old Town? For, the commercial aspects of it, as well as the aesthetics, the safety, citizens of Helotes.
Yeah, just from you're asking me, so I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to take more than a pedestrian bridge to bring hordes of people to Old Town. But I believe it's probably a very good first step or early step to encourage maybe some other businesses to come in there, some more activity, that type of thing, because it is going to be an asset, I think, to people that come to Old Town and want to walk from one end to the other. It's just going to be more inviting to go across that pedestrian bridge than to try and sneak across the vehicle bridge without any vehicles coming.
I walk that thing nearly every day, and there's people coming through there 45 miles an hour. and
Yeah.
Don't pay any attention to the speed limit, and that bridge is only about 22 feet wide.
But again, to set your mind at ease, I would recommend, when you make your motion, and if you do go ahead and accept this low bid, make it contingent upon the receipt of the concrete bid, so that we can put those together and make sure that nobody's gonna pass out when they see the total. And I don't think you're going to. I think it's gonna fall within that 200 to 225, that's my hope, but no guarantees certainly, because it's an unknown at this
I
point.
think it will. That's not that big an abutment.
No, you look at total concrete in the job, even the piers under the abutments, it's not that many yards of concrete. I think it's gonna be mainly the difficulty of working on that slope. Everything's gonna have to be done off Old Bandera Road, drilling the piers, the concrete trucks, assembling the bridge. All of that's gonna have to be done in some fairly confined quarters. So I think that's gonna add a little bit of cost, shouldn't be appreciable. And then we went ahead and decided to include the sidewalks at both ends so that we wouldn't have to mess with that ourselves. This way, it's turnkey. When they're done, they're done. We may have a little handrail to do. We didn't include that in the project because there is a little bit of slope as you're coming up to the bridge ends. But that's just some wrought iron handrail like we have in other parts of Old Town.
We can have lights on the bridge.
We can, we did not include that in the bids.
That would be
We could look at an option there, but it would be, to me, since we're only 165 feet, just put a nice light at each end, and we could do that ourselves, rather than have lights on the bridge. The thing that worried me about having electricity on the bridge is it is metal, and I don't know if something would happen and somebody would grab it, whether there could be a shock hazard at some time in the future. Everything would be contained in conduit, but still it's that concern.
I'm thinking LED colored lights or something like that.
Like the Corpus Christi Bridge, how would they change as you drive over? This isn't that important, but I'm just curious, what side of the road is it intended to go on?
As you're going from Flora Drive north toward El Chaparral, it would be on the left side. That's where it's always been
okay.
planned.
Country club side.
Okay.
The side opposite Elf Hardware. And it'll be within a few feet of the existing bridge.
So what's going to happen to the existing bridge then?
It'll stay just like it is. That was built by TxDOT and handed over to the city. It is our responsibility for maintenance, and we take care of painting the pipe handrails and stuff, or the guardrails on the side, and we take care of filling the cracks. TxDOT inspects that bridge, the two culverts on Scenic Loop, the one on Leslie Road, and a couple other structures every other year. Gives us a detailed report of maintenance requirements, photographs, that kind of thing, and then we go out and we take care of what they recommend to increase the longevity of the bridges. There's a lot of stuff goes on around here that nobody even knows, but it's the inner workings of the city.
Great.
But again, hopefully, you'll go ahead and take action tonight so we can go ahead and proceed. And there's nothing that will stop you once the numbers come in from saying, just like the linear park, can't do it. Then you figure out another project. And always remember, we don't want folks to think that all we care about is Old Town, because that's not true. It's just that some of these kinds of projects lend themselves to Old Town, and you guys are still concentrating on the rest of Helotes. Anything else? Did I help?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Make a motion if you like.
Any more discussion?
You made a motion for what?
I make a motion that we continuously accept the Wheeler bid with added alternative 3, which is the handrails, contingent on the bid for the abutments and supporting structure to come in.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Wayne, seconded by Joel. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and you'll proceed with that, Glenn, Rick? That's right at like $141,000, basically, $141,060, is that the amount
41,600.
with the handrail?
140.
$141,060. And we will have, okay, the other part of that, that is passed as just a footnote on it. We then need to decide, the bids are gonna come in 2 weeks from, or next Wednesday, I guess, then.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. We need to see what those are and decide if we need to have a special meeting, or can we wait until the August meeting to approve the overall amount? Rick?
I was gonna suggest, if you wanted to, we could have a meeting on the 27th. That is the same night as council. So we'll all be here anyway. On the, so 27th, 28th, 31st, we do need to take some time in order to get references from those contractors. So perhaps the 27th is too early, but that's why we suggested sometime the week of July 31st, which would be the following week.
Which, well,
So that's the week of the 1st?
Yes.
I'm not available the 27th.
not available on August. So you'll be looking at the week of
The week of the 7th is what you're looking at?
No, I'm looking at the week of the July 31st.
that would be, what, Thursday the 3rd would be the meeting?
Any day that week except for the 1st on Tuesday. The 1st on Tuesday would be planning and zone. No, that's not correct. Actually, any time that that week should be fine.
Or when is your council meeting, on the 10th?
The following week.
Yeah.
So I think the only day I'd be available, the week of the 31st would be Friday.
The 4th?
Yeah.
And then we have to meet on August 16th.
Yeah, we have to have the regular August meeting because we've got the first hearing of the budget. else available? What, August 1st, all right for anyone else?
I'm available that week.
I am not available August 1st.
I'm not either.
You're not either.
I'm available any other evening that week.
Did you
The
say-
4th sound good to everyone?
I can do the 4th.
Oh, that's what I meant to say, the 4th.
The 4th?
So do you want to do afternoon? or do you
Friday.
wanna do
Friday.
Everybody's working?
Be Friday night.
Friday night?
Because you're working. Yeah, the 4th. Good to go?
That's good
Well-
for me.
In the after, is that what we're saying in the afternoon? What time are we saying? Just in the
Yeah.
evening? I guess that's fine.
Okay, so we will poll for a time on August 4th.
Is there a reason why we couldn't wait 12 more days till our actual meeting? Is there a rush to get it approved to them to start work on it, or?
There's no real rush. I mean, I am hesitant to tell Wheeler that contingent upon a bid that is in on July 26th. My preference would be to make a decision prior to that, but I'm certain there probably would not be a rush. I just hate to hold a bridge manufacturer on the line for half of a month, actually a full month before we make a decision one way or the other.
Okay.
I can do it on the 4th.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take us long, once we get in here.
No, shouldn't. Once we get the numbers in, we just gotta look at the
You want to
numbers.
meet earlier? Would earlier help?
Diane,
Instead of 7, go with 6?
Heck, yeah.
I think 6 would be good.
6 would work for me.
Yeah,
I'd make it work.
in and out.
6?
Okay.
AM or PM?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 a.m. would not work for
No.
me.
Well, it would work for me.
6 a.m.
That would work also. Yeah, that would work.
You like that?
6 a.m. doesn't work for me
Breakfast.
for much of anything.
No.
Okay, 6 is fine.
Okay, got the bridge.
Okay, items 5 and 6 out of the way. Item 7 is discussion and action on a contract extension in the amount of $4,000 for the 360 zone Google Street View that we've done for the businesses in Helotes, and there is attached in the packet a list, I think, of the businesses that have, we've already done. Isn't there one in there, Glenn? Item 7. Yeah. There's a list of, that shows the completed businesses, and, you know, I'll let Glenn explain this.
Yes.
He's
please.
looked at it more than I have.
You like the color coding they did on this?
That's what all that means, the pen, wait.
So this project we approved back in October 2016 for that, this current budget cycle. And we hired John Alvarez with 360 Zone Photography to go around and do 360 virtual images for businesses that wanted to receive them. And that's what the Panos is. That's each station of a 360 view.
Okay,
So it
thank
gives you the feeling when you actually see that in Google, or if you check out Shop Helotes website, that you can walk through the building.
So it means panoramic.
Yes,
Okay,
it does.
thank you.
Guess I could have said that too, right?
Panoramic.
And then it also included some photos of the business. And the $143 was the base price for a small business, $286 for a large business. I don't think, or a medium, and we had one large, and that was Mimi Day, $429. So he was able to film or shoot 35 locations in Helotes. And that expended all of the money of $8,000 that we approved. He did have to throw in a couple free. He shot after he realized that we had already used all the money. But we've had some interest from other businesses that would like to take advantage of it, and I included that on a second sheet. But knowing that we're already here at the end of July, and we're gonna be starting budget discussions for October 1, We only have August and September to complete any more out of this fiscal year, 2017. That's why I was suggesting $4,000. If that makes sense. There's 30, I think 32 businesses on here.
So this guy started to, he spent all of the 8,000,
Yes, sir.
and now he's coming back saying, wait a minute, you owe me more money
No.
because. Okay. So
No,
we're
no, by
just
no
in
means.
good faith, we're saying, okay, since you've done it, and we want to do more, that you want another 4,000.
Correct.
For more businesses.
He may not use the full 4,000, that's just allocating an amount that he can do more business till he gets up to that point, which would be what, 10 or 12 businesses?
For 4,000, we'd probably do 15 to 20, depending on the size.
Yeah, we'd cover everybody else, and we won't necessarily have spent all the money by the end of the year.
Right.
This thing has been one of the, I think, the best things we've done for all the businesses in Helotes, because it really does give you a good view of the business.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It's a-
I've heard positive things
It's
from
a neat
businesses.
presentation to look at it. It's hard to believe that they can do that, but that's minor computer technology today.
There's a few things that this program forces the business to do. They have to go on and claim their Google profile. And then once they have the pictures uploaded, they have the panoramic, the 360 tour uploaded, that all factors into Google rankings. So anyone searching for a particular type of business or service, as long as they have that, they're going to rank higher than their competition. So it's actually helping generate business
It pops
for-
up higher.
Yes,
It gives our businesses more exposure.
it does.
Okay.
Should some of this be on the website? Our
It-
website?
It is on our website.
It is?
There might be a few missing. I'm going through,
Okay, awesome.
actually this week and
I
next
haven't
week.
seen those yet. That's great.
We could pull it up, but most of them are on there.
Cool.
Could we have a motion, please?
I see value in it. I motion that we approve an additional
I say
$4,000.
Okay, motion made by Joel, approved by, or seconded by Diane
Definitely.
to fund the additional $4,000 to the Google 360 program. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next one ought to be interesting. We have a motion to discuss item 8, the agreement for management services with the city of Helotes. Motion to discuss,
No, I'd motion we discuss it.
Second.
moved and seconded. You want to talk about this, Rick, or Lynn, or?
Certainly. Mayor Schoolcraft and myself will be presenting to City Council a budget on August 11th for the city. Part of that budget does include currently $15,000 for an agreement for management services for the services and the space that the city provides to the EDC to house staff and supplies and things of that sort. With the promotion of a public relations specialist and the promotion of Susan Darst, who's here tonight, from Fire Department Executive Secretary to the Assistant to the City Administrator. We've run out of space and are needing additional office locations. And I put it out in here, the relocation of the aforementioned employees from their current office locations to other locations within City Hall is essential to the continued operations of the city. And consequently, we'll be proposing to council to lower the management services fee from $15,000 to $5,400. The $5,400 would include the costs for financial services, check writing, audit preparation, and IT services, and you can see a breakdown of those costs. That breakdown of cost was crafted by the city treasurer and Tabby Durr, the financial purchasing officer. And also included on the dais was the proposal to amend the agreement for management services. And essentially, if you go to page 2 of that. Essentially, it strikes everything within H, which currently includes secretarial support, minutes, records retention, office and conference space, printing, copying, postage, and other routine office supplies. Later on in the evening, we do have some additional information, but that will be presented to y'all during closed session later on in the evening.
In other words, we're gonna be moving out of City Hall, we have to get office space.
You're throwing us out. You're throwing us
Well, I wouldn't use the term throwing out. I would say that,
Eviction.
I would say that the EDC is a distinct corporation and has been housed here since its creation in 2003. With the exception of building additional buildings and building a new city hall, space is at a premium. And so I have city employees, not EDC employees, that don't have the requisite space that they need to do the job they need to do. And that is why we are proposing to go from the 15,000 to the 5,400.
So where would we go?
We'll discuss that in
I
executive
think we
session.
should
Under
contingent
the
upon
bridge.
where they set up.
Well, that's the whole, this is contingent, we don't have a drop dead date to be out.
Yeah, no, there is no
Space
drop
and-
dead date.
Yes, in a trailer.
So our eviction notice is not
They're,
due.
they're playing, the city's playing nice on this, so.
Every year during the budget, we've had this conversation for the last approximate 10 years. So this isn't something that's brand new. We've been able to hold off on it for some time, but the city has grown to an extent now where, frankly, we just need the office space.
We're just talking Glenn, right? I mean,
Yes,
okay.
yes. And we do have a closed session to talk about space as well, and I have some recommendations on space to the board as well.
Okay, so all we're doing on this is approving the agreement for management services with the city in the amount of $5,400 rather than the 15.
Well, it is only a discussion item, so essentially we are putting the EDC on notice that we will have these discussions. In September, when the EDC formally approves its budget, you'll also approve a whole bunch of other stuff, including the managed services agreement.
right.
And then council will approve it following y'all's meeting, September 28th. So there's nothing to be done on this right now, other than to start the
Notice.
conversation, yes.
Okay,
When would it behoove us to get a third-party bid on the financial side of things as far as doing the accounts payable, payroll,
Definitely
audit
could.
preparation, those type of things? I mean, can it be done for cheaper for a small entity, or probably not because of economies of scale?
Could look into it. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
And we would also need to look there, again, within the incorporation documents and the bylaws, the city is responsible for oversight for the EDC. And so there may be requirements within those bylaws or corporation documents that would not allow going to some other entity for that type of service.
Got it. Seems like a lot for one person.
It's for two individuals. You're talking about the city treasurer and the finance and accounting officer.
I see.
right. I don't think you can get it done any cheaper than that. Diane probably could comment on that better than I could.
Work on Saturdays.
$2,700 per person.
Yeah, I don't see where it could be cut much, if
Yeah.
any.
Sounds like a good deal.
You start doing accounts payable and benefits, the journal entries, you'd have to set up a whole accounting system. And it would be very difficult to do with constraints we have to operate under, legal constraints.
Sounds good.
So that'll come up in budget anyway. We can move on to,
That includes salary too, right?
item 9 is discussion of the 2018 fiscal year end, but basically a 2018 budget. We have a motion to discuss start discussion on the budget, establish a calendar, and discuss proposed budget.
Second.
Yes, I move that we open discussion on the year 2018 operating budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded to open discussion. We have a budget packet here. It's kind of, I've got one here somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Here we go. Rick has
Okay, that's
prepared this as just a starting point for us to discuss, and there'll be some changes and additions as we get into
Yes.
office space and other associated issues, plus we won't know what we need and what we're gonna have to do for the additional funding for the abutments on the pedestrian bridge. And we'll have some more discussions with Glenn and Rick in their opposing roles. Will have discussions on that and the funding and everything else that's going on with it prior to finalizing the budget. But you wanna run through this thing?
Certainly, and actually, I would state that I did not prepare this. Glenn prepared the budget. I simply reviewed it, so I don't want to take any credit from him on that. Looking at this budget, essentially you start off with going back from FY14 through the proposed year of FY18. The estimated FY17 column is the estimated year end that we are projecting for both revenues and expenditures. You can see that the fund balance every year, generally speaking, has gone up. There was one year, this particular year, where we had anticipated actually going in the hole or in the red, if you want to call it that. But essentially, we have a healthy fund balance for the EDC of about $734,000. At the end of this fiscal year, we are proposing, or we are expecting that we will increase the fund balance by about $12,000 and grow that to $746,000. So that is the beginning fund balance for what is being proposed for FYE 2018. Sales tax, we are looking at approximately $724,000 worth of revenue, which would bring the fund balance prior to expenditures to approximately $1.47 million. There is a transfer out of $150,000 that would be transferred out to the city's debt service fund, and that was part of the 2015 certificate of obligation documents where the EDC agreed to contribute $150,000 per year for, I believe, 4 years to the city's interest and sinking fund. Under personnel, you can see there is anticipated $72,000 worth of salaries and benefits, including longevity. Professional services, audit fees are not expected to go up. We have budgeted the same for ICSC, both in Texas and in Las Vegas. Bank fees have remained the same. Legal fees have gone down they've stayed the same budget number of $2,000. We are budgeting again, or proposing to include $15,000 for conceptual design land use plans. And that is where staff in working with developers would be able to utilize Big Red Dog, which is an engineering firm that we have contracted with, to create conceptual designs and land use plans for realtors and developers that are interested in seeing what they can do with a particular tract of land. This isn't an in-depth study. It is a high level looking at the square footage of the lot, what utilities are located on that lot or accessible by that lot, and what configuration of buildings could be placed on that lot for that type of use. Currently, this year, we did budget $15,000 for that. We have not used any of that money to date. So you see an estimated FY 2017, the conceptual design land use plan, we did put in $7,500. That's highly unlikely, though, that we will actually expend that by the end of this fiscal year. So it likely will remain at zero, but we just transferred the $15,000 from this current year to the next fiscal year. ETJ development plan, that's dropped down to zero. There are no expenditures related to that. That project is finished. Marketing, we've kept it at the same $30,000 level. There is money for website development and maintenance and website development for the business directory or the shophelotus.com website. Under business retention and expansion, essentially everything here is the status quo in the way of what we are proposing in the way of monies for next fiscal year. The one difference is the market analysis and recruitment function of our subcontractor. That next year's payment is expected to be $25,000, or will be $25,000 rather than the $30,000 that we expended this year. And of course, there is the parking lot lease agreement that's included within the budget for the Terry property in Old Town. On the following page, memberships, dues, and licenses, and schools and seminars has essentially remained the same from current fiscal year. The reimbursing the city operating expenses, again, that's the managed services agreement that I talked about, is included in here at $5,400 rather than the $15,000 that it was for this fiscal year. Office supplies and equipment, operational expenses, and communication equipment allowance is relatively the same as it was included within this year's budget. There's a nominal mileage reimbursement for when Glenn uses his own vehicle. And then here's the really high dollar stuff, talking about debt service. We are, for 2007 series certificates of obligation, both principal and interest, the EDC is on the hook for approximately $293,000. And out of the 2015 series certificates of obligation, the payment for that is $42,611. All in told, the total expenditures EDC-wide is $675,926, or proposed, leaving an excess of current revenues of $48,000. If this stays true, the general fund balance for the EDC should increase from $746 to approximately $794 or $95,000 year over year. The next page highlights the capital budget. The capital budget for the EDC is relatively simple. At the end of this fiscal year, you'll have $171,000 in fund balance, and all of that has been allocated to the pedestrian bridge project. Again, as the chairman said, or the president said, excuse me, that number will have to change depending on what the bids come in at for the general contractor for the bridge abutments, if y'all decide to continue with that project. The one thing that is not included in here is, and it's partly because I don't know where exactly the EDC will be relocating to, but would be the expenditures related to the lease space itself, the lighting, the electric, the water, the sewer, all of those sorts of things. I would like to have a good handle on where the EDC would prefer to relocate, and then as we will discuss during the closed session, we can have those discussions with the tenant representatives, or not the tenant reps, the reps for the actual development itself, to get the best rate and get a better idea of how much the utilities will cost. The next iteration of this project, the next iteration of the budget will be presented to y'all in August. It is our goal that the expenditures related to the lease space will be included within this budget for the August public hearing on y'all's budgets. Again, if you look, you do have, according to this budget, about $48,000 to play with at this point to ensure that you still have a balanced budget going forward. And I feel confident that I believe the city or the EDC will be able to utilize that $48,000 and still be in the black by the end of next fiscal year, even relocating to another space within the city. Are there any questions?
So on the pedestrian bridge, why is it only 170?
The pedestrian bridge, originally Glenn had it at $350,000. I dropped that down to $170,916 because that is technically all of the capital or 2015 C of O money left that the EDC can spend. It's again contingent upon what those bids come back in at, but we will, assuming that the EDC proceeds with that project, we will have to increase that dollar amount, and that would be a transfer from the general fund to the capital account to fund that excess.
And you can do that mid-year or
We can
before
do
the end
that.
of the year?
We can do that mid-year.
You could
could also be a request to council to increase the C of O
Certainly.
debt service.
But it could happen as a request mid-year, but I would hope by August, we would have a firm handle of what that number will be and be able to discuss how we're going to transfer money into that account to fund the bridge project. I have been in discussions with the president, and I have not discussed this at this time with Mayor Schoolcraft, but I intend to, if there's anything that the city can do to assist the EDC with the whatever remaining portion there is on the bridge project. But the president asked that I facilitate that conversation, and I plan on doing so. Still no guarantee, but we will have those conversations.
And in lieu of that, if that doesn't happen, is there a legal method in place where some of the excess capital that was not spent on the sewer project could be utilized, and if in no other way, the debt service on that transferred to the EDC for that portion of it, rather than the city, or is that legal?
No, that's actually what I was referring to. Yeah, the certificate of obligation issuance was for all of the projects, not just for the EDC one. Remember, the city took out the debt. The EDC is just paying the city back for that portion of the debt related to that, to the Helotes Creek Linear Park project and the pedestrian bridge. So there would need, if that occurred, there would need to be a modification to the agreement that was in the bond documents, that essentially the EDC would take on the additional debt service associated with whatever amount that happened to be.
Right, we'd have the option of doing that or transferring it out of fund balance if we wanted to.
Or fund balance, yes, sir.
Rather not take $50,000 or $75,000 out of the fund balance if we could amortize it over, what is that, a 20-year bond or?
It was 20 years, yes, sir.
20-year bond, so it would not be a large amount of money per year that we would assume to go, and we could go ahead and get the project done.
That's the presentation for tonight. Again, the real meat of this will happen in August and September. I know that Glenn has inquired with the board to send us projects that they would like incorporated into the budget. And so we encourage you to continue to do that so that we can get this thing as tight as possible before the August meeting.
Well, I've got a
I
question.
got one question real quick. On the market analysis and recruitment portion, bottom of the first page there, it dropped from 30 to 25,000. Was, as part of that, was that the ETJ analysis that we had done and those type of things? Is that what's falling in that number?
No, sir, that is the retail strategies contract we have
okay,
on retail recruitment.
Thank you.
And I don't know exactly how, if we're gonna have the first budget hearing on the next regular meeting, we might want to include a discussion item on budget to get it in line on the August 4th meeting, to iron it out, so we're in agreement by the time we have everybody has a chance to look at the budget and approve it before we go to the first public hearing. If we're gonna have that meeting, we might as well do that.
You're talking about the first meeting in August?
Right,
The
August
special
4th,
meeting?
The special meeting, yes. And
Depending on what is discussed in there in the closed session item, I think that we would be able to get it pretty tight for that meeting.
we should have it pretty tight for that. I had a couple other options I wanted to discuss on budget, that this, for everybody's approval. I'd like to have Glenn or Rick or whoever, Glenn probably, approach the Chamber of Commerce and see if they would be interested in sharing some of the expense of this separate office, and in the process of that, hire either a part-time or a full-time secretary who would work jointly for the Chamber of Commerce and for the city to do some of the routine work that Glenn probably gets done at City Hall now, since he's gonna be at a separate location. And that'd all have to be ironed out money-wise, but just looking at it roughly, the calculations I came up with, if we did full-time and the chamber contributed like $12.50 a month, which would be about half of the secretarial cost for the salary, and, or on the lease, however you want to word it, just be a reimbursement from the chamber. The total expense to it for the budget, net budget increase wouldn't be but about $20,000 a year. By the time, because we've got $9,600 in reduction that goes against the rent cost to start with on the management services agreement. And if you had the $15,000 contribution from the chamber, it'd only net out to $20,000. If you did a half-time secretary, it would only, and that way, and reduce the amount the chamber is paying on that to a lower amount, you'd come out somewhere in the $13,000-14,000 total net increase to the budget.
Do we need a secretary, even part-time?
Well, the
You need a
chamber needs
secretary?
one, and it gives Glenn some backup, because Glenn's not there a lot of the times. There's nobody to answer the phone. And-
Voicemail. It's 21st century.
Yeah,
I don't have
Cell
the
phone.
capability.
just
He doesn't have a phone line.
something to think about. And,
No, now's the time to think about it.
yeah, well, we've got time to approach the chamber. We've got, I think Joel's on the chamber, and Glenn's on the chamber board, and Bert's on the chamber board. Y'all can have, when you have another meeting,
First Tuesday of the month.
first Tuesday? That will be after our meeting.
It'll be August 1st.
You'll have one August 1st? Okay. That'll be prior to our meeting on the 4th, so we'd have some more material to discuss at that time. We can't vote on it. That's just something to throw out there that we can look at and see if we want to do it, see what the cost.
I think it depends heavily on the price that we're paying for the office space that we're gonna be leasing, because it'll vary, as you know, quite widely, depending on what part of Helotes we're looking at putting down
Do you have anything in mind?
some.
Yeah, well, that's something, we gotta figure that too. I was
Yeah.
just figuring $1,000 a month on that.
I mean,
for the-
depending on where we could pick, that could eat up that entire portion of the budget that you're talking about there using.
No, we're not gonna rent that big a space, or expensive a space. Don't need to. Okay, so we have, this will come up again on the fourth meeting. And if we want to, we can adjourn, well, I guess, do we need to adjourn to the other room or
Yes,
for executive session?
yes.
Okay. We will adjourn at 8:17 to executive session, and the executive session will include Rick and Glenn as well as the board members. They all deserted us. Okay, we are back from executive session at 9:52. We have no further business. We are adjourned at 8:52, excuse me.